right now is a really good time to read Dune, or to reread Dune, to reread it again. It's the perfect time. The second Villeneuve movie is coming out in less than 2 weeks. The trailer looks really good. Like part one, it looks like it's going to have that epic feel, good music, good acting, good styling. Say hi to Pumpkin. She's our house guest for the week. Anyway, in the first part of the movie that follows part one of the book, and I think a little bit into part two, there were some plot threads and some motivations that might have been a little hard to follow without book knowledge. When my husband and I went to the theater to watch the first part of Dune, I knew what was happening because I had read the book. I have seen inside these characters' minds. There's a lot of like thinking to themselves, which is really hard to translate to screen. And so when we left the movie, my husband said that there were some things that didn't really make sense, and he was sure that there were probably reasons. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective. The two of us, the person who had read the book and the person who hadn't read the book, having such different feelings about the movie. I thought the movie was very well done. I liked seeing that interpretation of the world and the characters, but going into the second part of the movie coming up, I think, okay, for one, I am not the type of person who will ever say you have to read the book before you watch the movie. I think it's totally fine to skip a book, watch the movie, but this one, it might be beneficial to have some of that book knowledge. So going in to part two, instead of having questions and confusion and wondering why things are happening that are happening, being able to understand what's happening and then being able to just sit back and enjoy the movie. Dune is a book that has a lot of political plot threads. Dune, aka Arrakis, is the only source of the spice. Melange, or however you say it. It's what makes far space travel possible. Really important in the far future setting that this takes place in when you want to get to far places. So there's a lot of the large-scale political machinations. I'm not super interested in that part as much. At the time that this takes place, we are in far, far future. People don't even remember the Earth as we know it. Things like machines and AI and religion have gone so far. We're basically post-apocalyptic, but so far ahead of that it's not even the same. I don't know. Nothing's the same. Humans are out there. It's different. It's a very classic sci-fi, and it really explores the state of humanity being so far separated from where we are now on modern day Earth. I'm not into it as much for that. I'm into it more for the characters, especially Paul and his mom, Jessica. But Paul, outside of the books, is often misportrayed. If you have ever seen the 1984 movie, which is where scenes on the back of this book are from, and there's a couple of other film versions, they basically take the heroism and the good guy Paul and just focus on that part of him. There's a lot more to his character. He goes through a lot. His journey to manhood, he goes through some pretty big transformations. It's really interesting to see how other characters and other peoples react to him. And then after reacting to him, how they treat him. And he struggles a lot with his personal morality and what he sees as his role and what's going to happen in the future. In the first part of the movie, the new movie, the Denis Villeneuve version, we don't get to all of that yet. All of those internal struggles that he has going forward haven't been introduced yet. We'll get a lot more of that in the second part of the movie. At least I hope so. That showed a little bit of him sitting there talking to Chani, which is probably how you get more inside of his mind in this movie. But the whole getting into the characters' heads, there's only so much of that you can portray in film. If you want to go into the movie really understanding the characters' motivations, this is how you're going to get it. Again, no pressure. Enjoy the movie. You could always come back and read the book after watching the movie. But the reason I'm saying all this is because I'm going to host a read-along. I think it's a book worth reading. I think it will make me enjoy the movie more when I go to see part two, and so I think it would make you also, if you're watching this. I have heard that the prose and writing style can be a little difficult. So if you have tried this before and given up on it, I might suggest listening to an audiobook version. Or if you just really don't like it, skip it, whatever. You can still join me for discussing Dune, because you can discuss things from the point of view of the movies, not just the books. This will be my first time hosting a read-along, so here's how I'm going to do it this time and see how it goes. Step 1, acquire the book. You can get for yourself a super fancy version, an old used paperback so you feel like you can read it anywhere or take it anywhere, audiobook, ebook, check your library, get a hold of this by February 1st. And then step 2 will be check my community tab for the reading schedule and discussion threads. I haven't decided if I'm going to try to go live or not. There's a lot I would have to set up and get ready, but I will at least do discussion threads on my community tab. FYI, if you subscribe to my channel, you're more likely to see my posts on the community tab. No pressure. So starting February 1st to February 10th, we'll be watching part 1 of the movie if you have access to that, and then reading part 1 of the book. Part 1 is the longest part, and it covers most of what is in part 1 of the movie. February 11th to 17th, we'll read part 2, and then February 18th to 24th, part 3, and then the rest of the month, if you want to, there's some appendixes, it's spelled with an X, so I don't know. Space travel, exclamation mark. There's a lot to learn and a lot to understand about what's going on. I haven't read all those yet, so now might be the time that I actually do. And then, once movie part 2 comes out, we'll have discussion threads comparing book, movie, whatever else we feel like we want to talk about. I wanted to make this really accessible, no Discord or whatever. I've never done that either. And after this video, you can go watch my Paul Atreides is no hero video. It's my character study on Paul the character. I do not want to watch it. I might anyway, just as a refresher, but it's one of the first videos I made, and so I'm afraid it would be cringy if I went back and watched it now. That was before I was super comfortable on camera. It's hard to go back and watch old things of yourself. But even though I might cringe watching myself present on camera, I do think I had good things to say about Paul, so I still think it would be useful for discussions about him. And I'll see you on Arrakis. Spice. Fear's the mind killer. To the people whose labors go beyond ideas into the realm of real materials, to the dryland ecologists wherever they may be, in whatever time they work, this effort at prediction is dedicated in humility and admiration. Say bye to Pumpkin.